2:30 a.m., October 26, 2025. The Black Sea, 10 miles off Kinburn Spit. This is where Russia's so-called impenetrable defenses are about to be torn apart by the largest drone swarm deception the sea has ever seen. A Mura 5.5, 18 feet of hull, 2,200 pounds, the floating junk Moscow once mocked, slices through their waters at 46 miles per hour, gliding like a ghost and all but invisible to radar thanks to Ukraine's Swarm Phantom tech. It carries 700 pounds of high explosive, blunt, brutal, and razor-sharp. A torpedo primed to ram the gates of hell. Inside its hull, 8 Shrike FPV assassins crouch, 3-pound ninjas, each packing 2 pounds of C4 and tethered by 7-meter fiber optic cables that laugh at Russian jamming. Their target, an $80 million ammunition depot holding 700 tons of Grad rockets and 152mm shells. The lifeblood of Russia's Mykolaiv offensive, guarded by a $15 million Pantsir S-1 and 50 infantrymen who think they are untouchable. Fatal arrogance. Who could ever believe that a trick worth less than a missile could humiliate a superpower? Sounds absurd, but it happened. Rewind 72 hours. Ukraine was already tracing every blind spot, timing the 50-degree fog, and weaving a masterpiece of deception. It was an insane plan, built to strike at the exact heartbeat when the Russian guards would be thanking their vodka gods, a breath before the real hell began. The real twist wasn't that a handful of cheap drones would breach an impossible fortress. It was how Kyiv planned to deliver the knockout blow, melt into the smoke, and leave Russia scrambling for answers. Cost to Ukraine, roughly $350,000. The payout, the crippled heart of a multi-million-dollar supply chain. We don't outgun them. We outthink them. Let their arrogance be the fuse, said General Serhiy Melnik, commander of Ukraine's southern operations. From a covert base just before 2:30 a.m., the Mura 5.5 began its silent hunt. The secret weapon tonight wasn't only explosives. It was the weather itself. 8 Shrike FPVs were synchronized to launch inside a single breath, paths interlacing like a spider's web across the Black Sea, and all the math, timing, and nerve would turn forecast into fury. If you believe strategy can defeat size, hit that subscribe button and stand with Ukraine's ingenuity. A thick 50-degree Fahrenheit fog covers the Black Sea, cutting visibility to less than 300 feet. The cold, heavy air creates a thermal layer that confuses Doppler radar, turning a multi-million-dollar system into nothing more than a weather toy. 2:25 a.m. 5 miles from Kinburn Spit, a hatch on the Mura 5.5 opens. 8 Shrike FPV drones burst into the night. Each one weighs just 3 pounds and carries 2 pounds of C4. They rise to 20 feet flying low over the sea, too low for any radar to see. This is the Ukrainian trick. As every Shrike launches, a 7-mile fiber optic cable thinner than a hair unrolls from the boat, connecting it directly to its operator. While Russia waits for a radio signal to jam, Ukraine sends none at all. The fiber optic line can't be blocked or hacked. Through it, operators watch crystal-clear 1080p video sent by Starlink. At the same time, Ukraine's Buell AD system fills the Pantsir S-1 radar with noise, blinding it completely. But the question remains, can 8 tiny drones really stay hidden from a $15 million air defense system built to find them? The answer is already gliding through the fog. 2:35 a.m. Inside the Pantsir S-1 command vehicle, the radar screen flickers to life. A weary operator, probably on his 3rd cup of cheap coffee, leans forward, squinting at faint, ghost-like blips 5 miles out. They move too fast for birds, too slow for missiles. He frowns, mutters false echoes, and takes another sip. Fatal mistake. The KUCA-4 electronic warfare system roars online, flooding the area with a thick GPS jamming field. Outside, 50 Russian soldiers lift their infrared scopes, scanning the fog-drenched coastline. A heavy machine gun spits tracer fire into the mist. First contact. 1 Shrike drone bursts apart, raining carbon fiber and sparks. The radar glows red. Unidentified aerial intrusion. That's when the Ukrainians make their first move. The Mura 5-5, the biggest, easiest target, cuts its engines and drifts with the current. Its heat signature fades from the radar. To the Russian commander, the situation is obvious. A single drone probe, launch point roughly 5 miles offshore. He smirks, marks it as neutralized, and orders his men to sweep the coast. Classic arrogance. But the threat isn't retreating, it's multiplying. 6 strikes scatter, vanishing into the fog. The Panzer operator struggles for a lock. 20 seconds, 15, 10. The turret wobbles like a drunk under pressure. He pushes jamming to full power, but it's already too late. The Shrikes are ghosts now. The Shrikes scatter. On the radar, the blips vanish. The Panzer operator fumbles for a lock. 20 seconds, 15, 10. The turret wobbles. The jamming cranks to max power. 5 seconds too late. The Shrikes vanish into the fog. Russian EW crews pump more noise into the air, confident they've won. They haven't. They've brought a flamethrower to fight smoke. The KUCA-4 can jam radio waves. But the Shrikes don't use radio. They talk through glass. You can jam air, but you can't jam light. The 7-mile fiber optic tether renders Russia's entire multi-million-dollar defense system hilariously useless. As the Russians chase the decoy Mura, the 6 surviving Shrikes execute Ghost Cross. 3 hug the coastline, using terrain for cover. The other 3 skim just above the waves, approaching from a second axis. A nightmare for any radar cone to track. Now the ghosts become predators. The Panzer operator realizes his jamming is worthless and switches to guns. The 30mm cannon opens fire. A spray of fire and thunder. And another Shrike is shredded mid-air. Encouraged, the infantry joins in. RPG-7s streak through the mist. One detonates near a Shrike, cutting its fiber line. Inside the SBU command truck, a Ukrainian operator's screen flares white. Static. He slams his fist on the console. Heart rate spikes to 180. He's flying blind now, relying only on last known trajectory. Seconds tick away. One wrong command, and the mission fails. 2 drones destroyed, 1 crippled. The entire operation hangs by a thread. The Russians are firing in every direction. Radar blind, but overconfident. All focus turns to the 2 remaining Shrikes. The Panzer's turret swivels, hunting the tiny, agile blips. Infantry pour fire into the dark. They think they've cornered the intruders. That's the checkmate. 3 miles out, the drifting Mura 5-5 coughs back to life. Engines spool up, silent mode off, full throttle on. It is no longer a ghost. It is a 2,200-pound torpedo screaming toward the shore at 46 miles per hour, sliding into the Panzer's fatal blind spot. The close range the system can engage while its radar is busy chasing aerial returns from another vector. At the same moment, the 2 final Shrikes break formation and ignore the depot. Their new targets are the Panzer's exposed power generator and its radar dome. The chess match ends. The Russians were not facing a simple drone probe. They were actors in a play written for them. Every layer of defense, the 50 infantrymen, the guns, the $15 million Panzer, has been baited, distracted, and neutralized. The $80 million prize lies utterly exposed. Kiev, execute, comes the cold order. The 2 Shrikes become twin lances of fire. No hesitation, no last-second correction. The first 2-pound C4 charge slams into the generator and the Panzer dies in an instant, its power gone. Milliseconds later, the second Shrike detonates against the radar array, shredding precision electronics into molten scrap. Simultaneously, the Mura 5-5 doesn't just hit the depot gate, it vaporizes it. 2:49 a.m. The world stops breathing. The Mura 5-5 slams into the depot gate at 46 miles per hour, and 700 pounds of high explosive erupt with surgical precision. The blast doesn't just shatter steel, it pierces the depot's 3-foot reinforced walls, driving fire deep inside before the real nightmare begins. A pressure wave of 5,000 psi rips outward, flattening bunkers and snapping trees like matchsticks. Inside, 700 tons of Grad rockets and 152mm shells are hurled into the air, spinning like molten shrapnel. The shock ignites the propellant. a chain reaction of 2,000 degrees Celsius explosions tearing through the compound. Each shell becomes a warhead. Each warhead becomes a sun. From 5 miles out, satellite feeds capture a pulse of white light brighter than dawn. A rising column of flame reaches 1,200 feet, twisting into a vortex of smoke and thunder. The EMP surge fries every circuit within 2 miles, killing what's left of the Panzer, the KUCA-4, and every radio in Kinburn's sector. When the light fades, there is no fortress, only a crater 450 feet wide, glowing with molten steel. The sea boils at its edges. For Russia, the Kinburn Spit has ceased to exist. For Ukraine, it has become proof that intelligence, not armor, wins wars. 9 a.m., October 26, 2025. The dawn over Kinburn Spit is not gold, but gray. What was once a fortress of steel and arrogance is now a pit of molten ruin. The fire has burned itself into silence. The sea hisses where metal still glows. From orbit, NATO satellites capture a wound in the Earth. A crater 450 feet wide, radiating residual heat at 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. The thermal signature of Russia's once mighty ammo depot has vanished completely. No radar echoes, no power grids, no life. Hours earlier, that site had stored 700 tons of Grad rockets and 152mm shells, the backbone of Russia's Black Sea artillery chain. Now it is gone, erased by 8 drones and a $350,000 operation that shredded $80 million in munitions and crippled a fleet. Russia's own air defense network, its $15 million Panzer S-1 and Kuka-4 jamming suite, lies in twisted ruin. Nothing survived the 5,000 psi blast. On the ground, 50 Russian soldiers are unaccounted for. Some vaporized in the first seconds. Others stumble blindly across the sand, deaf and burned, their uniforms in tatters. The shockwave carried shards of concrete and shrapnel nearly 2 miles inland, shattering windows and rupturing eardrums in nearby villages. For hours, the firestorm roars without pause, igniting the wetlands and blackening the shoreline. Rescue vehicles can't reach the site. Every path is blocked by debris. In Moscow, the crisis deepens. The Ministry of Defense confirms a technical incident, but within hours, NATO's imagery leaks online, exposing the truth. The Kremlin statement collapses under satellite proof. Panic sweeps through the command chain. Putin's approval rating plummets to 57%. Investigators are ordered to find scapegoats. Generals who once bragged of impenetrable defenses are now interrogated behind closed doors. Across the front, morale disintegrates. Reports from the Mykolaiv line show artillery batteries silent, their supply routes dead. Russia's Black Sea Fleet has lost 40% of its active fire support in one night. Soldiers whisper that no position is safe, that the fog itself now carries drones. Psychologists attached to the 8th Guards Army record a spike in sleep disorders. 15% of troops suffer nightmares of buzzing wings and invisible explosions. Desertions climb 10%. Economically, the shock reverberates across the Black Sea. Shipping insurers raise premiums by 40% overnight. Grain and oil exports stall as commercial convoys reroute around the blast zone. Moscow's ruble dips 3.2% by midday, while foreign investors quietly pull back. Belarus delays its next joint exercise. Even longtime allies begin to ask questions. Meanwhile, in Kiev, the air is electric. Screens replay the satellite feed again and again. The blinding flash, the mushroom of fire, the collapse. Across Ukraine, church bells ring in small towns. Families gather in cafes, watching the footage in silence, realizing that this time, the David struck with precision. Recruitment offices report a 25% surge within 48 hours. The slogan appears on banners, phones, and posters. $350,000 stopped a fleet. Internationally, the operation becomes a case study in modern warfare. Military analysts call it the Kinburn equation, proof that intelligence, timing, and adaptability can overpower sheer mass. Ukraine has shown that in the 21st century, victory no longer belongs to the side with the largest army, but to the side with the sharpest mind. By evening, the fires at Kinburn fade to embers. The crater steams quietly, its edges glowing under the pale sun. There are no speeches, no flags, only the whisper of wind through the smoke. The sea has reclaimed what arrogance once built. The narrator's voice softens, measured and final. This wasn't just a strike. It was a shift. A lesson written in steel and fire. That brute force collapses when faced with precision, patience, and intellect. The war of numbers is ending. The war of ideas has begun. If it were you, would you risk 8 drones and $350,000 to cripple an empire? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you believe that intelligence will always defeat arrogance, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.